Hello everybody, I'm Kate Fogg and with me is Julie Hurt and we are making like two humans being. So today Julie and I are going to talk about staying in the happy, practical ways that we use to try and stay in that happy place. So we'll see how that we'll see how that goes. So Julie, what what advice do you have about staying happy?
I have no idea how we're going to do this. Because it's hard. It's so hard to stay in the happy. Okay, so just a little background for everybody. So when Kate and I are talking about like law of attraction and what we want to have in our life, attract in our life, we know we have to at least find something positive or stand in a place of positivity or stand in a place of happiness and believe that we already have it or whatever, all of that. And sometimes it's just really freaking hard to do that. And that's kind of what we were thinking of. So I guess to answer the question, how do you do that? Take a deep breath and pray or meditate or whatever it may be. But it's just of late, for me, it's been a practice of late for me.
I think we could start in more general terms, and also I want to add, like I was talking to a client about this morning, and that is, as you become more conscious of how you feel and start moving towards that, when you get knocked off your perch, as it were, you fall a lot harder, and I think that's actually, and then there's all the self-blame and recriminations about, oh, I should have seen this coming, I shouldn't have reacted this way. But I find that I fall pretty hard. The good news is I don't stay down for very long. It's a lot easier to climb out of it, but it's something people don't warn you about, and that is that the shock of not being happy comes as a much, at a great price. Because I think of all the years where, looking back, I was barely existing emotionally. I was like hanging on by my fingernails. Mm-hmm. And I look back and think of that as easier than when I come. I've been in a few holes this week, and it just hits me really hard. And I think it's about it's about awareness, because you just numb it out if you haven't started doing. I hate the expression "this work," but I don't know another one. If you haven't started being aware of your emotions, you're generally not aware. You may be aware that there's some feeling of discomfort, but it's, as you become aware of your feelings, it hits you a lot harder, I find. The other thing I would say is sometimes it's not about staying in your happy, but just not getting sucked down into the depths of depression. Happiness is relative. It's basically about the tools you use to stop yourself falling further and to sort of pull yourself out. I have lots of ideas, but I'll see what you.
It's to stop yourself.
Stopping it. Okay, stopping. You can't change how you feel, right? You react to something. It's what you do with that, whether it then spirals into something worse.
Right. Yeah. So to me, it's the stopping yourself, like, okay, because language is limiting, so we'll just say that, right? So, but in the thought of stopping yourself, you're really kind of thinking, you're recognizing, okay, I'm worried. Like last night in the middle of the night, I woke up and I started to panic about finances again. And and I have this little chat with myself, like, it's almost like I have to find my way back to faith in that it's going to be okay. I'm not going to die. Everything's going to, at some point I'm going to die, but that's another topic. But I'm not, like, I have enough. And what I'm worried about is being able to pay off, because I use my credit card for everything, so that I get miles and then I pay off my credit card every month. And we're just getting to a point in life right now, because of all the moving and everything, where I may not pay that off every month. So far I've been able to, and part of it I'm grateful for, because I try to believe that I'm okay. And so I have
And
to.
you are okay. I mean,
I
that's
am
the
okay.
simplest thing. That's what Eckhart Tolle says is, are you starving right now?
Yeah. No.
Are you going to starve in the next 2 days?
No.
You're all right then.
Yeah.
You know, and that's so hard for us.
Yeah. We put these things around us. I mean, there's just this idea. I just saw something on perfectionism, and we just build up all these things about trying to be perfect, or that everything has to be a certain way for how other people want it to be. Like we were sharing earlier, I had a conversation with my sister about how I should be handling my dog, and because it's a long story, but to me, it was like a practice of boundaries. Like, yeah, this is just how my life is, and it's okay. And I actually like it. It's fine. And it's another story which we can get into, but it was just about this peace and this calm. And I was reading this morning in my Christian Mystics Daily Meditations, 365 days. Matthew Fox is the author, compiler of this, and we're working on Meister Eckhart right now. And Meister Eckhart was talking about that the more important work that we all have to do in our lifetime is this inner work. And when we do the inner work, the outer work will flow. So I even thought about that this morning as I'm recording this the day after a school shooting in Texas, where at this point right now the death toll is 21 people. Every time I check the news, which I'm not checking, it pops up on my screen. It's risen. Anywho, how do you affect that rate of change in something like that, or even something in your life, whether it's financial or whatever, that's outward facing? Is we have to figure out how to work on ourselves and do that inner work. And by working on ourselves, it's not this idea of I have to be better, or I have to fit that model, or I have to be perfect in this thing. It's you have to come back to what makes you happy. And because when you're in that happy place, then things flow naturally. For me, what's been happening lately, and I have to say this right now, so there's been a doe near my house for the last 36 hours. And as I started to talk about this and talk about the inner work, she came running from the field all the way up to right there. So it's just like, it's a sign. But to me, it's like when you stand in that happy place and you can find your center, you can begin to watch for signs to help you see which way to go. Or I even find signs that just cause me to be grateful, like a bird singing, or I'll hear a bird singing and I'll think, oh my gosh, that's just the most beautiful song. And then, I get a little email about, a new class, or, a new opportunity. I don't know, just it does provide. It's just this matter of being happy, which sounds super simple, but it's really hard.
I think that, well, there's two things really. What you said about what people expect and how their life should be and stuff like that. And I think this is something our society is really, really bad at. Maybe all societies, I don't know, can only speak for the ones I'm aware of. And it's actually at the root of capitalism as well. Is this need to sort of creating need for stuff and having to sell stuff and materialism and all of that. And we all fall for it. I like to think I'm not materialistic. I have a house full of shit, right, that I don't really need. I was thinking about that. If we move house again, would I be prepared to give up my pressure cooker and my slow cooker? I maybe use them once every 2 or 3 months, but I want to have them. And this is a very, very human. I was listening to something else that's come up twice today about there's no other animal in the world that collects shit, right? Whereas humans, we're conditioned to having to have stuff around us, and this is what creates our thing of fear. Because part of this society is, you have a job, you start paying into a pension, you start to own your house, because you're basically going to hit a point in your life where it's all going to come crashing down. You lose the ability to earn money and you're fucked, basically. That's really it. So there's this constant undercurrent of fear and this need to perform up to a certain level. If you take all that away, what's really going to happen? And that's the other thing about the fear, because I am going through exactly the same as you now, Julie. I can be so blasé about money. I've been blasé about money because I'm all right. suddenly I'm not all right, and I'm like, fuck. It's so easy to be confident and know what to say when you don't feel at risk. But the minute I get scared, the thing that I noticed as well, this is why it's important to keep the happiness up, is once I get scared, all these other specters come out of nowhere. Things I haven't worried about for years suddenly rear their head and go, and what about this? And what about that? And it's just like, so realistically, what would happen, you know, like if you didn't pay off your loan, like we go straight to the, and it's not. You might get an angry letter.
Well, I actually just would get an interest charge.
Right, okay.
I'd get an interest charge. I just don't want to pay interest on it.
Yeah, we're a long way off homeless, aren't we?
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's a great point. I used to hear on when Oprah had her show about people that would start their own business, and the one way that they would do it would be to max out all their credit cards. Now, every finance person will tell you don't do that, but sometimes that's the only credit one can get when one isn't, you know, Elon Musk or whatever, which I don't know why we did bring that meme in there. Sorry, that was my fault. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, you've told me time and again too, like I've earned this credit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at a time in my life where I need to use it.
I must admit, obviously, I'm not a financial advisor, but credit these days and mortgages, for example, are so cheap.
Yeah.
You know, why? If you genuinely need the money, I'm not suggesting you take out a mortgage and then go and gamble it away, but if you need the money, why wouldn't you? What, you know, we're so I think this is our generation, because I think the new generation are different, because like they don't buy cars now, they all hire them, and like that really used to mess with my head. It still really irritates Gary, but actually I'm like, you know what, if you can get a brand new car for £300 a month, you know exactly where you stand with it. We used to save up for 4 years and then get some banged out old clapper or something and spend £300 a month on repairs. I mean, I've done that a few times.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different way. It's all very society now is all about spending money all the time as opposed to saving up for things, and we think that's wrong because inherently that's not the way we were brought up. Is it wrong? And so going back to the happy thing, if for no other reason, I find like, because you know, I think, oh, you're worrying about this and worrying about that, and then I remember for no other reason than when I'm happier, things will work out for me. It's like you can almost take a scientific approach to it and go, whatever is going on in the world, my worrying is not going to make that better. The only way out of this is to improve my vibration. And this is the whole thing. This is what's so hard. Like we all believe it, but it's actually sometimes really hard to integrate. And that's the thing. It's not what you do. We are just digging holes with teaspoons with our physical actions. And all that worry and all that mess in your head, as Abraham would say, is creating by default. You're not creating, you're digging a swimming pool with a teaspoon. She's like, get aligned, get happy, then the big guns come out. Mm-hmm. And the trouble is when you start slipping down, it's doubt. So it's like what you said, it's about going back to faith. Because when you lose your faith, you're just sitting in the dirt with a teaspoon.
Yeah.
And suddenly everything seems really, really, really hard. I can go from thinking, this is great, I'm going to be a multi-millionaire, I'm going to have, you know, Kate and Julie are going to be on every news channel in the world and all of that, and like I'm going to have a gazillion clients, and this is going to be really hard to manage how successful I'm going to be, to Jesus, oh my, how am I, what was I thinking? Am I going to have to go back and be a project manager? And I can, it's that quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I can share a couple of processes I use to pull myself out.
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of them, this I have to say, so this is Abraham Hicks, Asking That Is Given. It's not the first book, it's a rewrite of them, but they do have several different iterations, and I think it's worth getting a newer one if there is one, just because through the history of time, Abraham has learned how best to get the message through. The message is always the same, but humans being humans take a message and then they'll find a way to sort of, and that's why I think it's now called the art of allowing, as opposed to, it used to be the art of manifesting, and then people try and manifest, and it's like, no, it's about, because of the human nature. But at the back of that book, there's about 20 processes. The ones I use, for example, is writing. So some people call it automatic writing. But it's a way of there's lots of things you can do with writing. Some of them is just writing about positive aspects of people, but you sort of have to be in quite a good mood to do that. If I'm feeling scared and tense, and or something that I used it to get the cleaner for the shed when I lost my cleaner. I was like, oh my God, I'll never get it. It's so hard to find a cleaner. Oh my God. I would just write down why a cleaner would want to work for me. I was like, this is a beautiful shed. Every cleaner I've had really enjoys being here. They're in a wonderful environment. So it's all stuff that's true. You can't write stuff that you can't put a happy face on it. That you can just very gradually, you find yourself building, vibrate your vibration rising as you build momentum back. So it's like, I would just make the statement like, I'm really scared I won't find another cleaner. I know it's silly, but I am really scared. I'm acknowledging it. But every cleaner I've had has really enjoyed being here. There are lots of people for whom this would be a wonderful job. When they come here, they get a beautiful view. And it doesn't matter if you repeat yourself, you're just getting yourself in that loop, and you can do it like orally, even if you're not writing it down, even if you're sitting in the car worrying about something. Just or how everyone would put it is to find a little bit of relief. Like you can't get to here from here.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to. So it's just literally about, and you may dip again, like but you just, okay, that's fine, and then you just get back to it. So it's almost like I would say like a really gentle rant.
Yeah. So that's like for that point, like for that exercise, like last night when I had the panic attack about finances, I thought, okay, right now I'm okay. No reason to get up and start doing Quicken to see where everything is.
Exactly how bad things are.
Yeah, I'm in a house with a roof. My dog's next to me. My husband's next to the dog. We're in a bed. We're comfortable. I think we're okay. And then I could fall back asleep. But yeah, it's just that little moment, finding something in that moment.
Yeah. And small steps, not trying to, because I think if you're really scared as well, when you worry about stuff, if you try and like push it away and not acknowledge it, it'll just spiral into shit. At least it does for me.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. It's okay to go, it's okay to be scared. I don't have to beat myself up about it, because that's the other thing is then you get, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I should know better. What happened to my faith? And something very recently, literally just learned this in the last week, is physical touch. Like just holding yourself, like that's something that's never occurred to me, because I'm a very tactile person. Absolutely not because he's a Scotsman, but just sort of.
Yeah. I just
it's okay. It's okay. I'm okay. It's all right that I'm scared. Hopefully this will pass. And then you just go into a little bit about, because I'm with you in the finance. It's like, I've always been all right in the past. I've had some scary minutes, but it's okay. I also know that my vibration will provide. It may not feel like it right now, but having a higher vibration. And the other thing, which I love, that Nick Bro says, money can never be the reason that something doesn't manifest. So get everything else lined up and the money will appear.
Right. Money's an illusion anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, metaphysically, it's how, yes, we show value now, but why is that the only way we show value? And why is that the only thing we judge, or the main thing we judge things to on? But I wanted to go back to the touch. Amy Shear, right? Is that her? Amy Shear. She wrote a book called Heal Yourself from Depression. And it's a lot, she does tapping. But she had a little, in an email last week, she had a little video that she shared about if you're in a moment and you're stressed and you just need to like find a way to calm down. She did tapping up here on your temples. I take my glasses up here on your temples. And then she did from Donna Eden, who does energy, I can't see now, energy medicine. Yes, that's the name of the book. So I will put those in the show notes. But she did this technique where she rubbed, like she took,
I do that one.
And it's this. Yeah. And so I did, and
Amy,
she just did this, but yes, that's another one. But I will make sure to include the link to Amy's video that she shared in the notes, but she had a couple, and one of them was just hug yourself for a minute. Just say, it's okay. It's okay. You got this, or I love you, whatever, not to invoke Stuart Smalley for those US people who liked Stuart Smalley on Saturday Night Live years ago, where I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. That was an affirmation. It was a skit. And I'll put that in the show notes too, because that was always good and people reference it. However, it works. It works because it brings you back to
I do. I will say though, because there's some of us, I find it really, I'm getting better at it, but I find it really, crass isn't the right word, but like me saying I love you feels stupid because I'm not there yet. It's not words I use very often. So just say things that, it's okay to go, I'm all right, as opposed to I love you, or, I'm learning to love myself, or other people love me, or other people, you don't have to leap to the words. It has to be something that makes you feel comfortable. But the other course I was doing, Eva Baronius, who I'm really, really impressed with actually, and she talks about survival state, which is what basically when you get into that panic that you're acting from a different place. But one of the things she did in touching is literally just stroking the inside of your wrist. So, but I do appreciate we're sort of talking here about managing panic rather than happiness, but getting to happiness. But you got to get there.
Yeah,
You got to get out of panic to get to happiness. Find that happiness is more likely to creep up on you, I think. If you can stay out of the ditch, as we call it, and it's those moments like you say about the dough in the garden, and I do that. I look at my chickens. My favorite one is chickens' bums. Because they're always bent over, rifling around, and all the feathers in their bums go like that. And I just love that image, and the little teardrop image of these little chickens. That always makes me laugh. Or watching a pheasant in the garden now, and just birds, anything that takes you out of whatever's going on in your head. And once you get out of that, it's just allowing. It's almost like, to be happy, all you have to do is allow yourself to be happy. Our natural state is happiness. I still find that mind-boggling.
Yeah, I know it. And so we're reading this book. It's Been Hard, right? This one, Initiation from Elizabeth Heish. I think it's a textbook for limitlessness. Cue Maria popping in. It's a it's a good book, but it's just really, really deep and intense and hard to read through. It is like a textbook. But they talk about that as the main character protagonist is going through the initiation to become a priestess, actually, in Egyptian times. But they talk about that we were designed to be happy. We were designed to be limitless. And then we somehow decided, no, we weren't going to do that. We decided to make it super hard on ourselves. Why? This is why Abraham Hicks, when Abraham is being channeled, is just like, we don't understand why y'all have to make this so complicated.
Yeah. Why do we? I mean,
I don't know.
So we understand the veil because, and I guess my understanding of the veil is, we come here to experience stuff. If we knew everything that we knew before we came here, there would be no challenge. Right. Essentially, I think that's it. So this is a deliberate ploy on our part to challenge ourselves, and then we get all fucking hung up about it, and it just seems. Sorry, it's my clock.
Yeah.
It's just. Yeah, I don't know why we're so hard on ourselves. I do and I don't. I do think that it's evolutionary. I think we used to be a lot closer to our true nature. I mean, I guess we were just like animals when we started, and then we started picking up all this baggage, and we have a level of intelligence, a different sort of intelligence to animals. I don't know if that's intelligence is the right word, but we came here with a mission, whereas they just are here to get on with stuff and to support us, whereas we, for some reason, we had to build civilizations and we had to do that, and with that came baggage. And I think with all of that, it's the human nature, the competitiveness, and the I don't know how did that happen?
I don't know. I was listening to a podcast last night as I was having my panic attack and trying to stay in the happy, and then needing like a little story to fall back asleep. And it was about money, oddly enough, or not oddly enough, but it was before I fell asleep, what I heard was the guy that was talking, he and his friend, she had access to unarchived archaeological material in like either the London Museum of History or whatever the big museum is in London. one, or like the New York one of the two. And they opened up these boxes just to see what was all in them, as they hadn't been archived yet, they were being archived. And they found these tablets that were over 5,000 years old that recorded what either transactions or what people had done. And he said, so what we knowing from history, people at that time, they didn't have stuff, like they didn't cart all this stuff around. So, but if I grew cauliflower and you grew tomatoes, like I would record that we traded. Or if you didn't have tomatoes that week, I would say, okay, well, I gave you a head of cauliflower. At some point, you'll give me tomatoes. And we began to record that. Well, as people became more and more and more and more of us on the planet, we had to find, it wasn't sustainable for us to just record one-on-one. Then we started transacting one on many. And so then we built these huge administrations, which then became governments, which then became, so that we could continually service and maintain and track and record what all was happening. And it was just like, oh my God, that just got like super complicated. Like, wow.
Yeah, because there's no other creature in the world that.
No one else, nothing else does that.
They don't have belongings, they don't trade.
No. I mean, well, they might trade, but they don't like hoard. I don't think. I mean, squirrels do. I'm just thinking, but not like we do. Like I'm reading Viola Davis's memoir. She's Academy Award-winning actress, and she grew up in a house infested with rats. I don't know why I just thought of that, but because there was just trash where she grew up, there was just trash around. So then there's rats. I don't know why I brought that up. That it had nothing to do with anything. Maybe it's just because but her book is all about manifestation. As long as she believed her whole entire life that there was something more. And so she kept coming back to that. She and her sisters kept coming back to that. And that's as far as I am. She's not an actress yet. Well, kind of. She's like 10. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, but that's what the whole book is about. So I'll let you know as I read it. But
who is it?
Viola Davis. She was in How to Get Away with Murder. She was in The Maid. That's the practice that for me has been of late, because how do you not combat something that just pisses you off?
Well, because all the things you were talking about that's been happening recently, that's just the thing. In my opinion, you can't face that head on, right? Because there's nowhere to go with it. It's just too awful. There's a brilliant rant that Abraham Hicks does, and I need to find it because I'm forever like referring to it to people. I've known it. It's on I've got them on my podcast because I get her daily, twice monthly things. But it's basically one about, so she's talking from the perspective of a person saying, oh, well, I don't really know what's going on in Iraq. I know it can't be good. And I feel like we should be doing something there, but I'm not entirely sure that the things that we're doing are actually, I don't really understand how it can be the right thing for us to interfere in this at the same time, and then I don't know, it doesn't feel to me like what we're doing is right either, and I don't really understand. And maybe if we sent some people over here, but we do that, and then it seems to get more complicated and it seems to upset other people, and I'm not really sure we're actually doing the right thing. I'm not really sure what the right thing is, but I can, and this just goes on and on and on and on, and eventually just goes, and how the hell are you ever going to do anything with that? And that's just it. It's like for you and I to look at abortion or gun laws, or so yes, of course you can have your little vote and that, but these things are huge, right? And it can easily make you feel completely and utterly powerless as a human being, and so the answer is, and this is where the law of attraction hits the road and people get really angry about this. Actually, there's no point, yeah, you can vote, whatever, but walking out with a placard and getting angry about it is doing nothing but drawing attention to unwanted manifestation, someone else's manifestation. Someone else's presumably unwanted manifestation then becomes your unwanted manifestation, and the more it becomes and the bigger it gets. And her point is, if you look at anything in the world where we have the fight against drugs, the fight against terrorism, none of them have reduced, none of them have fixed anything. All you've done is create a bigger and bigger problem. And the only way is to look away, which is why I don't think it's not that you can find you're happy in the face of these things. You actually have to turn away from them and find your happy somewhere else. Maybe not instantly, but you can't. What do you do with that? What can you do with that? There's no way you can make that okay. You can't soothe. You can't write your way out of that. It's too big.
No, I guess, and for me, it's almost because where law of attraction does get some trouble is the looking away, or that we're just blissfully ignoring everything. And I will think about it in terms of looking inward. So when I like I said, this is being filmed the day after the shooting in Texas, and it's like, if I look inward for me, it's almost like what can I do about it outwardly, but what can I do inwardly about it? And for me, I think of it in terms of every interaction that I have with another human being, I am kind. Because who knows, do I come across at any given time someone who could have the potential to do the shooting? Well, probably. So, but if I'm kind, is my kindness at some point helping somebody snap out? I don't know. And that's not my focus. My focus is just, for me to be happy, I need to be kind to myself, and I need to show that kindness outward. I need to see the light in every single person and entity and being, in every tree, every flower, every bird, every human. See the light in everything. And when you start to do that inner work, like I was saying, Meister Eckhart was talking about in this meditation today, that inner work begins to ripple out. My focus isn't on the ripple out. My focus continues to stay in here. I hope and pray that eventually works, but it's that part I have to let go of. That's the attachment to the outcome, right? I have to let go of that. That's really, really hard, as well as working on yourself. And yet it can be so simple. If I am kind to everybody I meet, regardless of how pissed off I am. And also, there's also the boundary thing, like what I was discussing with, when I mentioned, I had a conversation with my sister about my dog Lucas has separation anxiety, does not do well by himself. We have found ways to not leave him alone for over 4 years. It has worked. We are fine. Everybody's happy. It just can create inconvenience for others. But we've worked through it.
I know, it just creates an inconvenience for you. It doesn't really impact other people, does it?
They seem to think it impacts them. And it doesn't create an inconvenience for me by any means. People think it does. But what's interesting is that what this has shown me, and this has been several months in the thing, is that for even me to feel comfortable in leaving him, I need to feel he is safe. I need to feel that for me. And so that's just hard for some to understand. And I have easy ways to make that happen. Not a problem. I just have to know ahead of time, and then I have resources. It's not a big deal. It's just not the normal way people leave their dogs. So who cares, right? But it took me a long time to realize that for me to feel good about how I want to feel when I leave my house and my dog isn't with me, this is what I have to do. And I feel great about it. And that's the most important thing. And when other people decide that it's not right for me, then what I've started to realize is I have to just, nope, this is what I need. This is what I need. This is what I need. And if I have to hang up on people while they're talking to me differently, then I hang up on people.
It's interesting because obviously we talked about this before you came, and I said, well, isn't it a little bit inconvenient? But and you talking like that, I realized this is exactly how I feel about the chickens. It's not about whether other people think it's ridiculous that I like to go home and make sure they're locked in at night. It's not about what they think. The amount of times not the amount of times we don't go out much, but in the winter especially, and we really don't go out much, but like over Christmas, having to go somewhere for lunch, and then it's too late, and I'm like, And now I'll just say no, whereas before I was made to not guilt. Well, yeah, ultimately, like, what's your fucking problem that's leaving? It's like, well, my problem is that one of them got stuck outside once and I didn't know. And I'd hate to think of little Wamba's hiding somewhere in the garden at risk, because the door shut and she wasn't in. Do you know, it's like, it's me. That yes, of course she survived the night and it was fine. But it's about me. It's about me knowing that I have said goodnight to them, not about saying goodnight, but about shutting the door and knowing that they're safe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do get it, Julie, and it's interesting that I had also come to the same conclusion, and that is that there's so much we do that is about pleasing people, and we don't even know we're doing it. And it's it's about what other people think is right for you, and it's having the courage to say, well, you don't have to agree, but this is the way it is. And going back to what you were saying about looking inside when terrible things happen again, and social media has become a really big part of this. Is this, if you're not fixing it, then you're part of the problem. Now, I used to be a big proponent of that. Absolutely, this was the biggest problem I had with law of attraction, was what do you mean? What do you mean I'm going to stop fighting? Because I'd be like, what about all the animals? It's not like I don't care about people, but I'm much more concerned about animals. Be like, what do you mean I shouldn't be campaigning against animal cruelty? What do it's like, if I don't do it, then who? And I realized that my mother and society in general had brought me up to believe that if I wasn't actively fighting every wrong, I was guilty as hell. And this is so inherent in our eye. There's all this, what they call it, virtue signaling, and that I abhor that. And we've got a lot of it about Ukraine and everything, and that does not mean I don't care about the people in Ukraine, but it's all these fucking companies that jumping on the bandwagon, come and do this, and show your support. It's like people with carbon neutral stuff like that. That's just another marketing thing. That's not real. It's like, we're going to go and fuck this waterfall, but if you plant a tree, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
And it's so inherent. I'm getting angry now. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That is not how you fix things, not just because there's a lot of people who are making money out of it. Okay, that's just another aside. But even if everybody was acting with the most genuine intention, that is not how you fix things. You fix things by, as you say, if we all become more tolerant, more loving, in whatever way we can. And just to be clear, if you're looking inside, I wouldn't try and love the person who's creating atrocities. Start with something smaller, like a friend. Is it Metta Bhavana, the Buddhist practice of you try and you love yourself, then you love a friend, then you love someone who's neutral, and then you love you don't go straight for that. I'm going to love my enemy, or I'm going to love that asshole over there who's shooting people. It's more about like don't challenge yourself with stuff that's too far away from you. But if all of us became more tolerant, these things wouldn't happen. That's really the bottom line.
It's interesting when you just said about the protesting and it reminded me of one of my favorite mottos. If it's to be, it's up to me, or if not me, then whom? Like those are my favorite phrases, and it always made me feel like a call to action, like I had to do something. And as you were talking, I realized what it actually means is, if it's to be, it's up to me, meaning it's up to me to to work on myself, to be the loving kindness, to be kind to other people, to treat myself with love and kindness, and allow that to emanate out to everyone, to see that love, that light within everybody. If it's to be, it's up to me. And I always took it as an external action. And actually, I just realized, oh my God, it's internal. And then let it flow. But that part isn't mine to flow, if that makes sense. Like,
yes, absolutely. And I never thought of it that way either. I would like to explain that though in a way, because I feel some people react to this idea. Some people who find this path like me now react to this idea of being a good person, right? Because that's just another label. So I would just say also, like, I don't feel that I need to love everybody. I mean, ultimately, I want that to be my goal, but like my focus. So, you know, everybody's different out there. You have to find what works for you. But if me focusing on loving people doesn't, I don't know how I'd get there.
Yeah.
Loving myself is hard enough. But what I can see very clearly in my vision of, because if you think about this, what we're looking at here is what we're looking for with the ideal space, our utopia. You know, that's what happens inside here. Is in mine, it would be about being happy. So, you know, it doesn't have to be about love, but in me finding my happy, I am automatically loving things more. So, you know, so if the love doesn't sit well with you, go for the happy, which sounds like, makes me sound like a really selfish twat, but I find it easier to think, if I'm happy, I have more to give people. That's an easier thing for me to grasp than needing to love, because I have that mentality that sees love as an action to obey, to work for, to sacrifice for, and all of that. Not love as in you mean love, which I'm still grappling with in my humanness, because I struggle with that. But yeah, just to this is a law of attraction thing. So my sister lives in France, and when I was over there, she used to go and visit this donkey, and she's like, do you want to come and see the donkey? And I was like, no, because she would tell me not horrible stories, but the donkey was only in a little paddock and he didn't have any grass, and and she felt sorry for him, and she felt, and I was like, I don't want to go and see him, because I don't want to see that, right? Because it upsets me. I mean, my sister's pretty sensitive. I don't know, she's quite as soft as me, but like, that would worry me. I would take that home and I would worry about that bloody donkey for the rest of its life. And I said no. I said, as far as I'm concerned, I'm ignoring what you've told me, and I'm going to say, you tell me he's clearly well looked after. So I think there'd been once, and he'd kicked his water over, and he didn't have any water, and it was really hot. And I was like, yeah, but he had water, which means somebody cares for him, somebody looks after him, he looks well, all these things, these good things. I said, I'm staying with that. Don't tell me any more about the donkey, because this is part of the reason I don't think I can actually leave Britain. I can't live somewhere where they don't take care of animals, the way I do, because obviously, anyway. And then when I left, I was like, I don't want to talk about the donkey. And she's like, yeah, fine. But I was just like, I could see the donkey, and I'm like, I can see him, he's obviously cared for. Basically, this is all part of the Twiggy thing about, if you want it to be true, you have to make it true. So I have to believe it's true. So I was like, as far as I'm concerned, he's very well looked after. He knocked over his water, whatever, that was unfortunate, but it's not a story of suffering. And the next day when I got home, she sent me a picture of the donkey, and he'd been put out in a pasture in the lush green grass and everything. And I was like, you see, because I was having this, we were making a joke about the donkey thing, and I was going, my reality in here is that donkey is safe, that donkey is loved, that donkey is happy, that donkey has everything it needs. That's all I need to know. I don't need to see what's happening. And she sent me a picture of it, and it was in the lush green that obviously let him out, because he was cared for. Yeah. But I like to think that was because my reality of that donkey being loved and cared for became reality.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna do the same with the deer, that I just keep thinking she's about to give birth, and I'm like, I'll help you, and it's more like, which I would, I don't know how, I have no idea how, but I just wanted to know she's safe here. She can do, if she needs to be here, she'll keep Lucas away. And
I think they know when they're safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think they can tell. That's lovely though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's been pretty cool.
Do you think we've talked that to death yet? There's always more, of course.
But... yeah, so if it's to be, it's up to me. But it's up to me.
That'd be a good manifestation chant, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As long as you don't read, as you say, but not to read action into it. But it's about, for me to create the reality that I want, it's up to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about what anyone else does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not in big, big letters about what other people think you should be doing.
No.
That's the big one.
Yep. Yep. Do what makes you feel happy. Do what makes you feel, happy.
Happy's good enough. Happy's everything.
Yeah.
From happy comes everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So on that note, we will say goodbye for now. I'm Julie here. With me, as always, is Kate Foggo. Underneath my desk is Lucas, who we were talking about as well. Outside my window is the dough. Anyway, this is Making Light, Two Humans Being. Thank you so much for being with us again today. We really appreciate your comments, your feedback, and all of your support. If you really like this channel, please feel free to subscribe and hit the bell so that you're notified when there's a new episode. Please feel free to also tell all your friends and all the people that you love and that make you happy about all of this conversation that we have. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram as well to get the latest updates. And if you have any questions or concerns, let us know. And all of the information that we talked about will be in the show notes below. And we really hope we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for being here.